Make sure it works. OK, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Daria Bagina, and I'm a professional Scrum trainer with Scrum.org, as Stella just said. And I am a Scrum Master, and I've been a Scrum Master for several years now. It's a number of years that I got to a trainer certification. And Retrospectives always has been one of my favorite events in Scrum. However, I find Retrospectives very useful in any real life situation or in any other types of work, even if it's not Scrum, if it's not Agile, because it's an opportunity to inspect, review, let's say review your year, review your decade, it's beginning of the year, and plan ahead. But before I go into that, I would like to just kind of get the feel of the room and to understand who we have in the room. So raise your hands if you're a project manager. Do you have any business analysts? I know there are a couple of Scrum Masters. What other roles do we have? Account manager? Yes. So we have a, yes. Relationship manager. OK, so that's good. It gives me kind of a feel of the room. How many of you, I mean, you asked, right? How many of you work actually with Agile? That's not that many. So before I jump into the retrospectives, because it's such a more specific to Scrum topic, I would like us to talk more about Agile. By the way, do you hear the little sound from the microphone that sounds weird, or is it only me? Yes? Is it disturbing? Should I turn it off? Okay. I'm more worried about the Zoom not being able to record. OK, I'll keep it. So why Agile? Why did it come to be, and why do we even need it? And to illustrate, actually, the Agile, I would like to talk about something completely different, out of the business world, out of our regular business cases or projects. Have any of you ever had to paint a room? Anyone? Yes? OK. Painting a room. Yeah, I recently moved to a new place, and I was super excited because I was able to finally paint the rooms in my space. So I decided that I want a blue wall in my bedroom. So I went Google, research, what do I need? I've never painted a wall before. So what do I need? I needed some brushes, some rollers, obviously the paint, some tarp to put it on the floor, and pretty much it. I watched some YouTube videos. Now I started painting the wall. Did some mistakes. There were some splashes here and there. Some parts were not really drying up as fast as I would like to. Had paint all over my place because I didn't secure the tarp on the floor properly. So I made some mistakes. I learned from it. So now when I went to the next room to paint another wall, was it easier or was it harder for me now? For those of you especially who already painted a room before.
I think it's easier maybe this time with the tape on the windowsill.
Put the tape everywhere, just in case.
Because you have learned the lesson.
I have learned the lesson the hard way. What about the tools? Now that I moved to a different room, do I need different tools to paint it? Yeah. But what about the kind of tools I use? Do I need to learn all new ways of all new tools to paint a room?
No.
Same, right? Same brush, same paint, same roller, very easy. So I know that what I have, what I learned, it's pretty much a repetitive process. It just keeps, it's the same. Even if I go now and try to paint a room in my friend's place, well, the color will change. The size of the room will change. I most likely will maybe need another amount of paint. But it's still the same task. I'm not learning anything, right? I might have need to review my mistakes, but now I pretty much know everything I need. And to illustrate that in a more now going back to a business environment, where to look at it as from a business standpoint and put it on a little fancy graph, So the tools, or in our case, the technology that I use, well, it's pretty known. I already know it, right? I already learned how to use it. So technology is known. The requirements and the factors that impact my work are already known as well. I know that I need to know the size of the room, maybe the color of the paint to know how long it's going to dry. But pretty much it's still the same. The requirements don't have that much change. They're not changing, right? So they're certain, even if I'm painting a room for someone else. So if we're looking at this little corner of this graph, tools are known, requirements are known, so it's simple. It's a simple environment. And if we're looking at it from a business standpoint, well, it means that these are the kind of work that is repetitive, that they're more known than unknown, and we pretty much have a pretty straightforward cause and effect relationships. We know that we do that, this is the effect we're gonna have, and this happens in this kind of business environment. For example, accounting, right? You shouldn't get too creative with accounting. You actually need to follow the specific rules, right? Or let's say, if you're working at a Subway, you're making a sandwich. There are specific steps that you need to follow to make the sandwich the way it's supposed to be made. And the same painting a room, it's pretty much a very simple task, and that keeps going. If we go a little bit further, where technology or the requirements might be changing, you can call it the complicated. And when we work in this kind of business environments, right? Well, what do we do? How do we do it? We usually go, and this is something very easy, right? We plan. So I planned my room, I measured everything, now I design. If we're especially talking about some architectural decisions that we need to make. So we design, then we do the work. I'm not going to write code, though. We do the work, and then we test. We have a happy customer, and then we might review, right? Lessons learned, postmortems, right? The retrospective happens at the very end of this cycle. Because we can plan ahead, the requirements are not changing, the tools are still the same. We can plan ahead, we can go through the whole cycle, and we get to the review. We learn some things, we can now apply them back to the same repetitive tasks. However, once we get, and what this is the kind of something that we are seeing happening in the business world, the availability of information, the technology that is constantly evolving, makes us progress further and further from this point, right? So now the technology is very unknown. The kind of programming languages that you used to work on 5 years ago are no longer used. Requirements are changing because now, because of the digital age and the availability of information, customers want much more. They now know that your competitor is doing something and they want it in your product as well, right? So the requirements are changing, uncertain. And to illustrate that, let's say we're planning a vacation. Now we're planning a vacation, let's say we're planning a vacation for me. So I give you my requirements. Well, this time I want to go to a vacation. I do enjoy hiking. I enjoy a lot of outdoors. I don't like lying on the beach, and I want to explore, right? Now you planned my vacation. It was perfect. Bless you. I come back to you 6 months from now, and I'm extremely tired after 6 months of work. Can you take the plan that you had previously planned for me as a vacation and just give it to me and say, hey, I already have a plan for you, just go? Will it work? What if now I'm coming with a friend? Now I'm not traveling alone. What if I decided to take my grandma on a trip? Requirements are changing. And now with a repetitive task as painting a room, that's pretty much the same. It's the same tools, the same requirements, it's always the same. And the factors don't change. planning a vacation can be difficult, and especially if we start taking into account the external factors. Well, what if we planned a vacation to go to Philippines right now, and there is a volcanic explosion? I don't think that you would like to go there, right? And because of the external forces, it's no longer the same as a simple environment. And that's where, when we apply to the business world, that's where we go into the software, right? We're talking about different technology that is being used, different applications and different products that are being built every single day. And in this case, when we're going into here, we're getting into the complex environment. And in the complex environment, what we usually use, this was the way we were planning our work previously, right? This is the way we were working on it. And it worked perfectly, made sense. But we're in a complex world when technology is changing, when requirements are changing, and there are external factors. And now we add a third line in here that is called people. And I'm not only talking about the people who work in the company, but your potential customers, because now we're entering the global world. The complexity rises, right? And this type of way of working, when we do all that and we only at the very end we review, might actually make a business no longer competitive, because by the time you do that, your competitor already built something that is much better. There is another thing that is actually here that's called chaos, but we're not going to talk about that. So in the complex world, right, this is where Agile came to, right? This is where Agile actually was created, is that people realized, well, this is how we used to work. It worked really good. But because the business environment is changing, we can no longer rely on that. We need to review. We need to be quicker. We need to get to this point quicker. How can we, right? So we're trying to do that. So we have this line. We're trying to make it into a column. So instead of do it in sequentially, we're trying to get a chunk, a little piece of every single one of those, deliver something to our potentially happy customer, and review as soon as we can, so that what we learned here can go into the next iteration, where we take a chunk of everything, and then we give it to the customer and the review. And so if we're complex environment, we can say this is Agile. This is where Agile comes into place. This is the kind of complexity and problems that Agile tries to face, not fix. You can't fix complexity, right? You're just trying to stay competitive, stay more competitive in the marketplace in this complex environment than your rivals, your competitors. And Scrum, so what I do, Scrum is just one of the frameworks that allows you to be more agile. This is just the rules that can help you with that. Just a system that can help you. And within Scrum, why? Now you might be asking, wait a minute, I came here to learn about retrospectives. What are we talking about? Well, Agile, one of the Agile principles is that at regular intervals, we inspect and adapt. We reflect on what happened, on our progress to date, on our work, and we adapt to the future to stay competitive in a complex environment. This is one of the Agile principles, and the way Scrum realizes that is through sprint retrospectives, where we retrospect every single sprint. And at the end of every single sprint, we inspect and adapt. So that's one of the very important points in Agile is the continuous improvement, and that's how we're trying to achieve that. Any questions to this point? We're going to a different topic right after that. No? Okay, you either didn't understand anything. I was crystal clear. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, okay, now I'm gonna, because I was talking for way too long, and I'll be talking even more, I'm gonna actually ask you to move a little bit because I don't want you to fall asleep. So what we'll do, we'll stand up, and I will be saying some statements. And based on how much you agree with the statement or disagree with it, if you really agree with the statement I'm saying, come closer. If you disagree with that, you go far away, right? You can do it in the line or in a little dispersed. Okay. I was falling asleep. Okay, that's good. Okay, the first statement. I attend lessons learned or retrospective frequently, at least every 2 weeks to a month. No one's here. Come on. Okay. Good. I have already run, led, or facilitated lessons learned sessions or retrospectives. There you go. Lessons learned or retrospectives is my favorite meeting of all. Okay. Every time we have a lessons learned session or retrospective, we uncover new ways of how we can improve in the next project. Every next project that we implement is much more successful than the previous one. Some of you are not moving. I see you. You know who you are. Okay, and the last one. I love cookies. There you go. Okay, thank you. So before you sit down to your previous spots, wait. Because the next exercise will actually be putting you in groups. So if you're too far away or sitting by yourself, do come closer to sit with others, because the next set of exercises will be more group exercises. So have at least 5 or 6 people, ideally 6 people at each table. So if you're missing someone, if you're missing a person, ideally 6, I think, yeah. I might have lied, but anyway, come closer. I'm just counting the number of people we'll need, but in my head.
Do you have 6 here? Yep. Oh, there's 5.
I guess that's our break, by the way. I'll make you move again, so don't worry. Okay, so as we talked about lessons learned, I mean, no one really came really close to me for retrospectives, and lessons learned are my favorite meeting of them all. It's very disappointing, but we've seen the bad and the good of those meetings, of postmortems, of the retrospectives, or lessons learned. And we also most likely seen some good things, because when I asked, well, we uncover new ways and improvements that we can implement, some of you came closer. So I can see that there are things that still come out of those discussions, right? And before we go into the next part, I actually want us to think about what does it really mean to have a good lessons learned session, retrospectives, and what does it mean to have a bad one? So I have this 2 posters that we'll be filling in all together, which is awful lessons learned with some, never seen that before, right? And some awesome ones. And here are a couple of questions to think about. What does it feel like? What are the characteristics of each one of them? What is the energy in the room? What is happening during those discussions, whether it's a good one or a bad one? What are the results do they bring? And the way we'll do it, we'll use a liberating structure that's called 1-2 for all. And it's a very good technique that can be used to engage a lot of people in discussions. So the first, you'll have 1 minute. We'll have 1 minute individually in silence to answer those questions as much as you can. And then I'll give you the steps for the next part of this exercise. So you have 1 minute in silence. Think about these questions. We will be filling both of them at the same time, right? What is an awesome lessons learned session? What does it feel like? What are the results? What are the characteristics of it? And what is an awful lessons learned from session? Once again, what are the results that are coming out of it? What are the characteristics? How does it feel? What is happening in the room? 1 minute individually to write some ideas down.
Do you want to, sorry, actually write it down?
Yes, yeah, because then you'll be sharing. So. You can. Okay, now find a partner and discuss what you have so far, what you've written, discuss in a pair, and maybe add more ideas, something that you didn't think about. So discuss, you'll have 2 minutes to do that. Or a group of 3, or go to a different table. In pairs, not in a group. You will have to do it again in the next round. I do encourage you to do it in pairs, not in group.
It's a bill 6.
I will have to do it again. Okay, so the next round. Hello? Okay, so now pairs or groups of 3. I'll wait for everyone to stop talking. Okay. Okay. Now pairs, each pair or group of 3, there's at least one group of 3, find another pair at a different table. And you'll have 4 minutes to make your list as big as possible. We'll need to fill those in, right? So you'll have 4 minutes. Each pair or group of 3, find another pair or group of 3.
It's not raining. It's not
they don't want
Oh,
to
Okay, time's up. Time's up. Yeah. Huh? I'm not sure I can hear. Let's. Okay. So anyone would like to share? And you can, with your notes that you have, you can come up and put them actually on the relevant poster. Anyone would like to share? What did your group just talk about?
We had some good ones in the
Yeah.
In the awesome column. We had one that you can just.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Now it's your stage.
Do I write or just take this?
Just put it on. Please don't write on my posters.
Oh. Well, I guess. But on the awesome side, we thought a good one was it should be actionable. Like it should be something you could actually do something with. And it's awesome if there's consensus of the team that they all agree that that was a good lessons we learned. Things that make you excited and eager to work on the next project were awesome lessons learned. And I guess if there was a sense of team bonding while coming up with the idea.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
That was two. We got a lot of those when we combined it before.
Yeah, that's good. What other things anyone else would like to share?
On the awesome side, I think some of the characteristics we come up with is essential. The discussion is process-oriented, not talking about people. Open-minded, people come in with an open mind.
Yeah. Open-minded. Yeah.
And insightful. How they will feel is, hopefully they'll feel energized, and appreciated, and supported during the process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there'll be a list of action items or goals that everybody agrees.
Yeah, action items. That's the sometimes it comes out. Exactly. The results also matter. It's not only the feelings of being in this kind of meeting. Other things? Anything about the awful ones?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, I have plenty.
All right, so on the awful side, going into one that, and nobody wants to say anything, silence. There's got to be some communication. And also repeating the same mistakes, things we talked about before. Okay, didn't anybody learn from what we talked about? Let's move on this.
Yeah.
And also, if there's any kind of political shenanigans going on, things that are really not helpful.
Yeah,
and just doing it
helpful.
to be appreciated or to talk to what the manager wants to hear.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
on the other side, ideas, coming up with something new each time, getting proof that something we talked about before actually did work. Sort of the opposite of the one that repeating the mistakes. Read my writing here. Oh, constructive, empowering, honest, and openness. Making sure that people actually come out and say what's really on their mind about something.
Yeah.
And come up with a solution for it.
Yeah, that's really good. What I also liked about yours that you talked about reviewing progress. Looking at, did we actually improve, or how did the previous action items impact our project or our team? You want to share as well?
But characteristic, one characteristic is enthusiastic speech, truth, trust between all the team, open-minded, we say that, and engagement. Because if we are not engaged in finding and learning, nothing happens.
Yeah.
And on the opposite, also lesson learned is linked to fear,
Yes,
to
definitely.
pretentious people, team or something like that, anger, pride, and shame.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. The kind of feelings you don't want to feel going into a lessons learned meeting. Anything else? Okay.
For awesome, we had engaged, positive attitude, open-minded, having a good facilitator, focus on success, taking ownership, and the people are comfortable.
Yeah.
And for awful, we had disengaged, finger pointing, no accountability for outcomes, not worthwhile. People are afraid, or they can't remember what happened.
Or or they can't remember what happened, right? Definitely. Okay, so if you have any additional notes, do put them on the posters. I'm going to take a picture and share. I guess there will be an opportunity to share this with you, so that if you have anything else, you can just put them on, and we'll collect that later on. So just you don't have to present it unless you really want to. Any other notes, you can just put them on the posters. And you can take your seats, by the way. Huh? Yeah, you can take any seats you want. You can go to original seats or steal someone else's seat. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, we have some couple of things that are missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what you have?
Sure. Well, I think it's important that someone's actually taking notes.
Okay.
That it's
Yeah.
not just like a meeting of words.
Discussing. Yeah.
But also, I think it's important that someone brings snacks.
Who could it be? Thank you. So I'll take a picture of that, and I hope I can find a way to share it. Yes. Okay. So now that we talked, well, this was a little framing exercise. What did you think about the way we did it? There are, what, 40 people in this room?
The speaker was perfect. Thank you.
Well, in this exercise, it was an opportunity. We have 40 people in this room, right? And each person had an opportunity to actually contribute their ideas, right? This little structure that we just used is a good way to engage people during your lessons learned session, right? 1 minute on your own, 2 minutes in a pair, 4 minutes in a group of 4, right? And then we discuss as a group. Very easy. It's a liberating structure, so there are many or different ones that you can use, but this one is the easiest one, and you don't need to be a facilitator to actually run this. It's very, very easy. So put those here. So what we did right now with the purpose of this whole section, the very first section of this presentation, was to set the stage. There was an opportunity for me to talk to you about the purpose of the presentation, the purpose of the topic of the presentation, retrospectives, lessons learned, put you into on the same page as me regarding the complex environments, the changes in the business world. And it is also a way and the first step that you can start with in a retrospective. So there are 5 stages of a retrospective that are described in Agile Retrospectives book by Esther Derby. And I'm using those stages to actually run this presentation. We'll go into the next one where you will be running your own retrospective for yourself at your tables as little groups. And let me just go through all the stages so that you know what are we going to do. So set the stage. That was step number 1. So now everybody is on the same page. Then we want to gather data. In the retrospectives and the lessons learned, that's an opportunity to gather as much information about the subject of what we're discussing as possible. So about our project, about our sprint, about our product. And then step 3, we want to generate insights. When we generate insights, we analyze the data we just gathered in step 2, and we try to find patterns. We're trying to understand, well, now that we have all this data, what does it mean? Right, so generating insights in step 3. Then we decide what to do. Obviously, that's pretty easy to understand, right? Based on the insights that we have just generated, we can decide what we can do with that. And we close. So here we can say that we set the stage, we did some framing exercises to frame what a good or bad retrospective looks like. And now we'll actually do the rest of our retrospective for today. And we'll gather data. And to gather data, you have pieces of paper on your desk. So now the way you're sitting, that will be your group. So if you want to go and sit with, like, you don't have enough people, you want to have more people at your table, for the rest of the presentation, this will be kind of your group and your team you will be working on. So feel free to find a different group or combine groups if you don't have enough people.
We have seats in the front if you have big tables.
Do you want to do that now? Okay. Okay. So I heard that people like to connect on LinkedIn during these events and just to chat and network. So I'm gonna give you a little break of 5 minutes before we go into the next stage to just, you know, go around and say hi to people you don't know. Go on a bio break, though there are only 2 washrooms, so you can technically go any time you want. And in 5 minutes we'll go back and start the exercises. Okay.
So if you want to find each other on LinkedIn and connect, and then maybe you can group in the tables if you want to
yes.
talk to someone.
By the way, the easiest way to connect with people in the same room on LinkedIn, if you didn't know, if you go on LinkedIn and then you click on My Network, go on My Network, then you click on this little blue button, and then you click on Find Nearby. You didn't know? So you go into My Network, then you blue button with the plus sign, like the little blue man with plus, and then Find Nearby. And once everybody puts it on, everyone who is in this room who activated this function will be able to see each other. Magic function no one knew about, really?
So that's exercise that we like in this community. So you can see people around you, so you can connect with each other. I see Daria, Caroline.
Check. Okay, so now that you're all connected and clearly sitting at the tables, at the same tables as before, you haven't moved. Okay, let's actually start to gather some data. So my first part of the presentation was there to talk about the changes that happening in our business world and the environments that we're working in the way technology changes and products are changing. Technically now, every company is a software company, right? It also changes the way we work, our work, our workplace, and potentially our jobs as well, right? Because we need to adapt to what is happening. So what I want us to think about is, we'll do once again kind of the same way we did in the previous, but I have a question for you. What kind of changes do you see in the industry right now that impact your work? Whether they're positive or negative or neutral? What are the changes, like as we talked about the simple versus complex environment, what do you see that is happening in the industry that impacts your work? So all the changes, and we'll take just, yes, do you have a question?
Well, no, I was just going to mention privacy.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. You will be doing it within your circles, right? Yes, so you can take a note of that, because what we'll do, you have your little piece of paper on each table. You can actually write down, this will be the topic of this retrospectives, because I want you to come out of this with some actionable items for yourself to start implementing at your work, to stay competitive as a professional in the industry that is changing, right? So right now we'll gather data, and you can write down the question at the top of the list, and you will be working within your groups at a table. Each table is a team, right? And let's take, once again, 1 minute, think individually, what are all the changes that you see right now that impact your work, your profession, whether they're positive, negative, or neutral. Think about it for 1 minute on your own, and then we'll go into your table discussion about that, okay? Let's spend another 4 minutes at your table. We will fill in this piece of paper with all the ideas that you have. You can either write on the paper, or it will be better if you actually write it on the sticky notes, because it will be easier for the next exercise. So you can discuss at your table. I don't hear discussions. It's very quiet. If you're struggling on your own, that's a point where you can start discussing it with your table. You can, it will be better if you write it on the stickies for the next exercise. So.
Especially if you're not the IT. Mark coming back. Traditional project management takes
And then just these like little bits. Yeah, like sometimes something could happen. I don't know, as far as in Australia, you have no idea how that's going to impact the Canadian industry, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You and to your point, it's amazing how that's it. Because that just becomes an office or the opposite.
Okay. In the interest of time, I'll have to stop you here. Yes. But I gave you much more time than initially anticipated. So I just saw the discussions happening. I just wanted to make sure that you have had a chance, everybody at the table had a chance to share and talk about what they have. Okay. Hi. So the next part, now that we gathered some data, and well, obviously you'll be able to build up on that. To generate insights, we'll use a very, very easy technique that is called categorization. And the way we're going to do that is all the nodes that you have, what we need to do is we need to group them. But not only do we need to group them in terms of what they impact, the changes, whether they're positive, negative, however your table decides to group them, but you need to name the categories. Each group needs to have a specific and distinct name that will define the changes that you have decided to put into this group. Okay, so very, very easy. I'll still give you a little bit more time to work on that, and that's why you also have your papers that you can actually group your notes and then write the names of the categories. And you shouldn't have more than 5. Ideally, try to, you know what, 5, 6 categories on each table should be around a good amount of group changes that you have. Yes. So the changes that you see, right? You have different notes, you share them. Now try to group them because you most likely covered so many different things. So to help you And to help you see the patterns, all of what you discussed, try to group it into around 5 to 6 categories maximum. You might have less or more, but around 5 to 6 groups of changes, however you decide to group them.
Do you want to maybe use
Okay, once again, in the interest of time, I will have to stop you here. Whatever the groups that you have, I saw some great discussions happening. And I don't see anyone who has more than 5. That's perfect. 6. So the next thing we will do is, because there's 5 categories, we don't really have time to try and to address all of them, right? So many changes are happening. So we'll try to choose one that we'll be discussing today at your table. So what we'll do is we'll do a simple voting technique that's called dot voting. So you'll take a pen, and each one of you will have 3 votes, right? And 3 votes means 3 dots. You take your dots and you put your dots where you think what group or category you would like to discuss the most. What do you think is the most important group of changes, or the most critical to address for you or for your profession you're in? So you can distribute the 3 dots however you want. You can either distribute them on 3 different items, or you can put all 3 dots on one item because you think that's how important it is. So just do that. Each one of you has 3 dots at your table. You can, yeah, on your ideas, yeah, on your.
There is, but I think you should. Okay.
And once you're done, raise your hand so that I know. Okay. Everybody fine? Raise your hand if you didn't finish voting. Check it if you're listening. No? Okay. Okay, now that you have the dots, the votes, okay, guys. Now that you have the votes, it's clear, most likely, which group has the most votes. And this is the one you will focus on in the next discussion. Or so if you have 2 items that kind of have the same amount of votes, just choose one of those that you would like to talk about right now. And the next thing that we will use is called a Starfish Diagram. It's a very easy way to actually get into the thinking about what can be done. So we have gathered data, we generated insights, and now we'll be deciding what to do. So to help us with deciding what to do, we did some dot voting so that we can focus on the most important item first. And we'll do a Starfish Diagram. Has anyone used Starfish Diagram before? No? Okay. So it's what you can do the same. You can either turn your paper or use it, write it on a different paper, whatever you want, but you will need to look kind of at the category that you chose. Starfish Diagram is a way to think about what can be done in 5 different categories of things to do. So first category is start doing. Start doing. So what are the things that you can start doing in order to address the changes that you have just identified as the most important? We still are talking about the group that you have voted on the most, right? What you can stop doing. Remember, we're thinking about me as a professional in the industry, in this profession, in the business environment that is changing. Stop doing to address the changes that are happening. Continue. Can I continue doing what I'm doing that is good? start, stop, continue. And now more of. What am I doing right now, but maybe I should do more of to get the most out of it, to address this challenge that most likely is coming out of this change? And what can I do less of? Something that is valuable. But maybe I'm spending too much time on doing that, right? Maybe I can still do that, but maybe do a little bit less of that. Maybe I'm focusing too much on this item. So once again, let's spend just a minute individually thinking about it, and then we'll go into the group discussion. So start, you, more of or less of?
Anything? Any biscuits? Thinking about the next
Okay, I think I'm going to stop you here. I think there's some great discussions at each table. I hear some of the discussions kind of dying down, and it's been an hour and a half that we're here. So because you had a lot of discussions, and some of you are coming from different companies, different professions, different industries, I want to give you a chance to really reflect on what we talked about today. The topics we discussed at your table, and take 1 minute to just reflect and think about what are the key takeaways for you personally from all of the discussions that you had, from the last exercise that we just did. What can you do starting tomorrow to make positive changes in the way you work, right? And to really work with the changes that are happening in the industry. So it's your personal takeaways. That's just for you. Just spend a minute to think about that and write it down, because if you don't write it down for yourself, you're going to forget it. So just silent reflection, personal reflection for everyone, okay, as the end of this exercise. Okay, so we run through the regular kind of cycle of lessons learned, retrospectives. I showed you some of the techniques that you can use to facilitate the discussions and to engage people into those discussions, and also actually get to the action points, right? It's not just about discussing the challenges that we were facing, it's about actually finding solutions to them, right? So different ways to navigate that. That's just a couple of few ways that you can use. I think the reality is, because the business world is changing, there are a lot of things that we need to adapt to as professionals to stay competitive as professionals in this place, in the business place, right? And an opportunity to just sit down and think about what is happening in the business world around you, and just think about what can you do. It can be a small change that you do every single day that will get you further, right? It's not about waterfall versus agile. It's not about Scrum versus Kanban. It's really not about that. It's about an opportunity to improve continuously, because the world continuously improves, right? Business world continuously improves. So do you want to talk about the card? Okay, so you might have noticed that you have the cards at your at each table. This is actually, we'll do a little lottery, because those are gifts. But there's, I think, any table that doesn't have one. You don't have one? Okay.
Maybe we'll join the table. But do you want to talk about the cards?
Yeah, so yeah, we did use that. Well, the thing is that the cards are, I'm a terrible salesman. But the cards is something that I have created when I was a Scrum Master and I was doing retrospectives, and it was taking me so much time to prepare for each retrospective. And over the years, I collected a lot of different ways to run a retrospective in such a way that it is effective and productive and engaging. And at the end of the day, that people actually want to go there. And my teams really were enjoying the retrospectives to the point that every end of the sprint, it was the end of the sprint day, and I was like, yes, finally, the best day of the sprint is the retrospective day. What are you preparing for us today? Because I would change the way I ran the retrospective, and they knew that they will get something out of it, because every time we change the point of the discussion, right? And the retrospective poker is just something that comes out of it, and it collects 20 different techniques that can help you run a lesson learned or retrospective. Some of them are more focused on Scrum and Agile, but a lot of them also can be used in any environment. And for the ones that you have on your tables, is we would like to run a little lottery. They are also available for sale, but we would like to give you an opportunity to maybe get a deck and use it in your organization and see how it goes, and maybe get some positive improvements in the way you run your lessons learned and get something out of it. How much are the cards? The cards are $39. It includes tax. It includes tax only here. Because if you go to my website, it's 39 plus tax. Just saying.
Let's do a lottery this way. So there's a small table of 3 if you want to come forward. So we'll have a table of 6. So at each table now you have an empty cup, and you have set up the sticky note. One color, and everybody write your name and hold your name card. Put it in the cup in the middle, then you shake it, and somebody will hold it. But I do want to point out some special people in this group. We have representatives of points. Can I have points representatives come forward? Exempt from this lottery. You guys. Appreciation of you providing us space. We just want to give you the gift. You can run your So the rest of us at the table, you can put your name in the cup, shake it, and maybe Daria can put the lucky names. And then you can keep the cards from the table. The winner will get the card.
Wow.
I hope you're on different teams.
Dear, everyone has one.
No, only one name.
Okay, you ready? Okay, hold the names are in here, right? Okay. Yeah, wait. Okay.
The winner is
The winner is Rebecca. Okay. You guys need help? Okay, I'm not looking.
Play at home and with your family. Okay, and the winner is
Oh my God, sticky notes are the worst.
Michael. Connected on LinkedIn, Michael.
Okay, that's good.
And the winner is Steven.
You guys need help with that?
And the winner is this table.
Okay.
And the winner is
Oh my God. So who wants to open?
it's secured.
Joe.
Joy.
Good. Did you have it? No? Or come to us with that.
presentation didn't have any PowerPoint, so for next time we're giving Daria the clicker so she can present the slides. Today, a regional clicker, one of our presenters, Sasha Ganova, introduced us to. It's a rim. You wear the rim on your
that's
finger,
nice.
so it's seamless, and then you click. Next time
Cool.
we'll have to bring one for Anna.
I do have a class that has slides, so I can use it.
Enjoy this.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for participating. And if you're interested in learning more about Scrum or Agile, I do have a website with a lot of free resources that you can get there to learn more about the role of a Scrum Master or Agile in general. I also do run Scrum trainings if you're interested. Professional Scrum Master, Professional Scrum Foundations, and Professional Scrum Master 2. So if you're interested, all the information is on my website, Daria Bagina, ScrumMaster.com. So I'll be happy to see you in my list of subscribers. Thank you so much.
And do retrospectives. Do more of them. And now we can socialize a little bit and show the sandwiches are done or cookies. Everybody who said they like cookies. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. There's one